Celebrities who went to jail and still had successful careers. Hey guys, today we're going to list the celebrities who went to jail and still had successful careers. Let's get right into it. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was arrested in 1991 for the rape of an 18-year-old girl and sentenced to 6 years in prison plus 4 years probation. Tyson was released after less than 3 years in prison. Following his release, the boxer easily won multiple comeback fights, with his first fight grossing nearly $100 million worldwide. He has also built a multi-million-dollar cannabis business, with one of his products being an edible shaped like an ear. Tyson recently made headlines after being caught on camera punching a fellow plane passenger in the head after the passenger allegedly harassed him. Tyson faced no criminal charges and the case was closed. Robert Downey Jr. While speeding down Sunset Boulevard in 1996, Robert Downey Jr. was arrested for possession of cocaine, heroin, and an unloaded .357 Magnum. A month later, while under the influence, he trespassed into a neighbor's home and fell asleep in one of the bedrooms. As a result, he received a 3-year probation sentence that included mandatory random drug tests. He was sentenced to 6 months in prison after failing a drug test in 1997. He missed another one in 1999 and was sentenced to 3 years in prison, which he served for nearly a year before being released. After his release, Downey Jr. did not let his time in prison derail his acting career. He went on to star in several blockbuster films, including multiple Iron Man and Avenger films as Iron Man. Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo was arrested for the first time at the age of 10. 2 years later, he was incarcerated for the first time at Eastlake Juvenile Hall. Trejo was in and out of prison for 11 years for robbery and drug dealing. In 1965, he was sentenced to prison for selling 4 ounces of heroin to an undercover federal agent. Trejo was 24 at the time of his sentence and was involved in a prison riot that earned him solitary confinement after he hit a guard in the head with a rock. He was released 5 years into his 10-year sentence. Trejo became sober after his release and began working as a substance abuse counselor. In 1984, he was called to the set to assist an actor who was struggling with his own sobriety and was cast in the film as a result. He has since appeared in over 150 films and television shows. He's also the owner of a rapidly expanding restaurant empire in Los Angeles, including Trejo's Tacos, Trejo's Cantina, Trejo's Coffee and Donuts, and he recently co-authored a cookbook. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes reported to serve his sentence in 2010 after being found guilty in 2008 of willfully failing to file federal income tax returns. In 2011, Snipes filed an appeal, which the Supreme Court denied. He was released in April 2013 and was placed under house arrest until the end of his sentence in July of that year. Snipes' acting career did not end with his incarceration. He is still in feature films including 2019's Dolomite Is My Name and 2021's Coming to America. Chuck Berry. Despite several hit records and a high-profile career, Chuck Berry was arrested in 1959 for allegedly having sexual relations with a 14-year-old waitress. Berry was convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison after a 2-week trial. He filed an appeal, claiming that the judge was racist towards him, swaying the jury against him. His appeal resulted in a retrial, and he was convicted again, this time for 3 years. Berry lost another appeal and was sentenced to 112 years in prison. Berry not only continued to perform and record new music during his trials, but he also hit the ground running after his release, with dozens of chart-topping albums and singles, and a career that lasted nearly 60 years. Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart was found guilty of felony charges of making false statements to federal investigators, conspiracy to obstruct, and obstruction of an agency proceeding following a highly publicized trial in 2004, sparked by securities fraud and obstruction of justice. Stewart was sentenced to 5 months in prison and 2 years of probation. Stewart's imprisonment increased her notoriety and she launched a comeback campaign after serving her sentence, notably collaborating with Snoop Dogg on projects such as 2019's Martha and Snoop's Potluck Party Challenge, bringing her more success and profitability than before her arrest. Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard spent time in and out of prison before becoming famous. He was arrested in 1957 for attempted robbery and sentenced to time in the Bakersfield jail. He was transferred to San Quentin prison for attempting and failing to escape. He was fired from several prison jobs and spent time in solitary confinement. A Johnny Cash performance at the prison inspired Haggard during his incarceration. He was released in 1960 and rose to prominence in country music over the next decade. Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg was involved in a number of racially charged, violent incidents as a teenager. At the age of 16, Wahlberg assaulted a Vietnamese-American man on the street, knocking him unconscious with a large wooden stick. Wahlberg was taken into custody and charged with attempted murder. He pled guilty to felony assault but served only 45 days of his 2-year sentence. Despite a rocky start in his career, Wahlberg has found success as an actor in both comedies and action films, not to mention his business ventures, which include Wahlburgers, a Chevrolet dealership, and the online platform Ballers Report. That's all for today, and we'll be sure to catch you all in the next one.